Lawmaking. Evaluation of the literal rule. The literal rule of statutory interpretation is where the judges apply the words of Parliament exactly as they are written. This can give rise to difficulties. For a full explanation of the literal rule, please see the other video clip in this series, Statutory Interpretation, the Literal Rule. This video will focus on the disadvantages and advantages of the literal rule. Literal rule. The disadvantages. The disadvantages of the literal rule include: 1. It creates loopholes in the law. 2. It makes a nonsense of the law. 3. The decisions are unlikely to be in line with Parliament's intention. 4. It can lead to injustice. 5. It is inflexible. 6. It doesn't recognize the intricacies of language. 7. It creates awkward precedents. And 8. It requires parliamentary time to correct errors. The creation of loopholes can be seen in R.V. Harris, where the defendant escaped criminal liability because the wording of the statute did not include biting. Also in DPP v. Cheeseman, where the defendant wasn't liable, despite the fact that he was exposing himself in public. The results in such cases make a mockery of the law, run counter to Parliament's intention, and lack common sense. The acts were clearly culpable and deserving of punishment. Allowing them to go unpunished creates injustice. Injustice can also be seen in LNER v. Berriman, where the widow was denied compensation simply because her husband was killed whilst oiling the track rather than repairing it. These cases also demonstrate the inflexibility of the rule. There is no opportunity for the judge to maneuver to achieve a just result. There can be disagreement as to what amounts to the ordinary or natural meaning. In R.V. McGuinness, the majority in the House of Lords stated they were applying the ordinary meaning of the word supply. They found the defendant liable for possession of cannabis with intent to supply. He was returning cannabis to his friend, who had left it in his car. Lord Gough disagreed. He did not think the word supply could apply to where the defendant is giving someone back property that already belongs to them. A further disadvantage of the literal rule is that it creates awkward precedents which require parliamentary time to correct. Once an interpretation of a statute has been set by the appeal courts, that interpretation has to apply to all other cases. For example, following the case of R.V. Harris 1836, it was perfectly legal for a person to bite another. This is clearly not a good position of the law. It required an act of Parliament to change the law. Parliamentary lawmaking is time-consuming and cumbersome and subject to whether the required change is high on the legislative agenda. The change to the offence of wounding came in the Offences Against the Person Act 1861, 25 years after R.V. Harris. Whilst the disadvantages of the literal rule may appear numerous, obvious and fundamentally damaging, the advantages are at a constitutional level and perhaps outweigh the practical inconvenience and injustice created. Literal rule. The advantages. The advantages of the literal rule include: 1. It upholds the separation of powers, Montesquieu 1748. 2. It recognizes Parliament as the supreme lawmaker. 3. It doesn't allow any scope for judges to insert their own views, prejudices or opinions. 4. It restricts the role of the judge. And 5. It provides certainty and procedural justice. According to Montesquieu, a French constitutional theorist, the power of the state should be divided into three arms: the legislature, the executive and the judiciary. Each arm should remain separate and not impinge on the other's function. Under the literal rule, the judges remain within their own function of applying the law made by the legislature. Where judges move away from the literal rule, they become lawmakers and usurp the role of Parliament. By strictly following the words of the statute, the judges are supporting the sovereignty of Parliament, recognizing Parliament as the supreme lawmaker. If Parliament makes an error, it is for Parliament, not the courts, to correct it. Parliament, with its elected House of Commons, coupled with the expertise of the House of Lords, is best placed to make the law. Unlike judges, Parliament has the power to commission research and consult with experts and the public on proposed changes. Proposed bills go through a thorough legislative process, ensuring they are fully debated and scrutinized by each chamber. Debates are open to public scrutiny. With judge-made law, it can be made by as few as 2 judges in the Court of Appeal or 3 judges to form a majority in the Supreme Court. The literal rule does not allow judges any scope to insert their own opinions or bias. This is important as judges come from a narrow background, with white males still forming the majority of judges. Judges are still predominantly drawn from practicing barristers with privileged backgrounds, generally educated at public school. Appeal court judges are still predominantly Oxbridge educated. Consequently, the way they perceive the world is perhaps different. This may give them an unconscious bias in their decision-making. It is therefore important that their ability to interpret creatively is restricted. The literal rule provides certainty and procedural justice. If the words are applied exactly as written, the result of the case can be predicted with a high degree of certainty. It doesn't allow judges to create crimes after the event. This contrasts with the position under the mischief rule in cases such as Smith v. Hughes, where the judges extended the law to cover soliciting in a private place on view to the public. Extending the law in this way breaches natural justice and offends the rule of law. The defendants may well have believed their actions to be within the law. The literal rule avoids this position and therefore provides procedural justice. In summary, the literal rule has many disadvantages. It creates loopholes in the law which causes injustice. It creates precedents that make a mockery of the law. It requires parliamentary time to correct errors. It doesn't acknowledge the limitations of the English language. Conversely, the advantages are that it upholds the separation of powers. It acts as a check on judges' power and their ability to insert their own views. It supports parliamentary sovereignty. It provides certainty and procedural justice. Whilst the disadvantages are blatantly apparent and cause injustice in individual cases, the advantages at a constitutional level are far more fundamental. This video is part of a series of videos on law from www.e-lawresources.co.uk. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel www.youtube.com/e-lawresources. It's free to do so and will help us to keep providing these videos. Check out our website, which provides lecture outlines and case summaries. See also www.e-lawrevision.org.uk for revision games and quizzes. Thanks for watching.